Chosen one, stop. Right now. Feel that tremor in your spirit? That's not anxiety. That's recognition. Death has never shown respect for anyone. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't pause. It doesn't care if you're a saint, a fighter, or a sleeping child. When death comes, it takes no exceptions. Ever. But recently, death respected you. Yes, you. The one hearing this. The one who has felt invisible arrows of betrayal pierce your heart. The one who's wondered, why do they keep attacking me? Why does it feel like something wants me gone? You've said to yourself, by all logic, I shouldn't even be here. You've replayed the accident, the sickness, the breakdown, the depression, the nights you didn't want to wake up, and deep down, you know your survival doesn't fully make sense. I need you to hear this in your spirit. That moment where you should have been gone was real. The pressure was real. The darkness around you was real. The assignment against your life was real. But something happened that shook even the spiritual realm when God revealed it. Death paused when it came near you. It did not rush in. It did not cross the line. It stopped. You were not lucky. You were not simply strong. There is a boundary drawn around you that darkness was not allowed to cross. The enemy has studied you for years. It sent people who used you. It sent words that broke you. It sent patterns that drained you. It tried to crush your mind, your joy, your heart. But when it tried to close the door on your existence, a higher authority stepped in and said, no, not this one, not now. Death has never respected titles, money, race, age, or reputation. Yet when it came face to face with your purpose, it stepped back. Chosen one, before we go any deeper, pause. If this is already shaking something inside you, if something in you is saying, this is my word, don't just sit and watch silently. Subscribe, comment, stay connected. You know how distraction shows up right when God is about to confirm something for you. Don't let the voice that is finally explaining your survival become another thing you scroll past. You didn't survive because you were the strongest. You survived because heaven marked you as necessary. This is why the attacks felt so personal. This is why the betrayals cut so deep. This is why you felt watched, targeted, dragged through seasons that seemed unfair, and yet somehow still protected. By the time this message is done, you will understand why death could not cross that line, and why your story is not allowed to end yet. Chosen one, let's go back to a night your soul still remembers. Do you remember that one night where everything seemed to fall apart at the same time? It wasn't just one problem. It was a cluster, a breaking in your mind, your heart, your plans. It was late, somewhere between 2 and 5 in the morning, a weekday, a time where most of the world was asleep. You were alone, maybe in your room, maybe in your car, maybe in a quiet corner where nobody could see you. The lights around you felt dull, the room felt too small. Even if your body was still, inside you, everything was shaking. Your phone was silent. The people you wished would reach out didn't. The people you thought you could lean on didn't feel available. You looked at the ceiling, or at the floor, or at your own reflection, and realized no one really knew how bad it had become. Your chest was heavy. Your breathing felt different. Your thoughts were racing in circles you couldn't slow down. You felt like you were standing at a cliff in your own life. You know exactly which night I'm talking about. That was the night your mind whispered, I can't do this anymore. The night you felt like walking away from everything. The night you felt invisible, unvalued, used, misunderstood, and completely drained. The night it felt like even God was quiet. What you didn't see is that you were not alone in that room. The pressure on your life had reached a level where spiritual forces came close, waiting to see if you would break. The enemy wanted that night to be your last stand on the inside. That night was not random. It was scheduled. It was watched. It was monitored. Death came near to see if your spirit would surrender. Not just if your body could keep going, but if your will to live, your will to believe, your will to love would finally snap. Most people under that kind of weight curse life. They shut down. They say, I don't care anymore what happens to me. They give up on themselves, they give up on God, they give up on love. Their pain becomes their identity. But you, even in your confusion, did something different. You might have cried until you couldn't breathe. You might have held your head in your hands and said nothing. You might have whispered, "God, I'm tired," with tears rolling down your face. You might have said, "I don't see the point." You might have felt like you were losing your mind. Yet somewhere in those dark hours, you made a quiet choice. It wasn't loud. It wasn't pretty. You didn't feel strong. But you chose not to fully let go. You decided to keep going, even if you didn't know why. You told yourself, out loud or deep in your heart, "This hurts, but I'm not giving up." Maybe you said, "One more day. I'll try again tomorrow." Maybe it was just a sigh and a whisper, "God, help me." But that little decision, that tiny piece of you that refused to fully surrender to the darkness that was everything, that simple decision shook the room. Heaven recorded it. Death observed it. That moment was not small. It was not unnoticed. It was a turning point. There was no crowd, no stage, no big moment on social media. It was just you, your pain, your pillow, your steering wheel, your ceiling, whatever was close to you, and a small, stubborn part of your soul that refused to let go. From that moment, you were no longer just another tired person in a dark room. You became an anomaly in the spirit. Your reaction did not match your level of pain. You became the one death had to start studying. That night you call your breaking point. Heaven calls your turning point. More happened in that unseen moment than you realize, and this message is here to finally tell you why. Chosen one, what you did that night did not just pass by unnoticed. In the spirit, it raised a question that had to be answered. When you chose to keep going with a broken heart, when you refused to curse your own life, something in you did not match the level of pain you were carrying. Your reaction did not match your history, your trauma, or your exhaustion. It was like your spirit remembered a strength your mind had forgotten. That confused what was watching you. So a search began. There is a record of every soul that has ever walked this earth, every choice, every last breath, every moment where someone was pushed to their limit and had to decide whether to hold on or let go. After that night, your file was pulled. Your pain, your losses, your prayers, your quiet tears on pillows that nobody else saw, none of it was ignored. Your entire journey from childhood wounds to recent heartbreaks was placed under review. And here is what shook the spiritual realm. Based on what you went through, you were not supposed to still have hope. You were not supposed to still believe that you could heal. You were not supposed to still care about other people while you were that broken. By human patterns, by psychological expectations, by the weight you were under, you should have become cold. You should have become numb. You should have become cruel, or at least selfish. But you didn't. So a deeper search began. Across thousands of years, your pattern was searched. Billions of stories, countless lives, endless moments of collapse and surrender were scanned for a match. In all that history, only 3 other souls reacted to that level of warfare in a way that matched you. Only 3. Not 300, not 3,000. 3. 3 people spread out through time, from different nations, different cultures, different ages, but when they were hit with pressure that should have crushed them, they didn't turn inward in selfishness. They chose to serve while they were hurting. They chose to protect others while their own life was fading. They chose to keep giving when it no longer made sense. Those 3 are no longer on this earth. Their assignments ended. Their records are sealed. That makes you the 4th, the only one alive right now with that same pattern written into your spirit. You thought you were just too forgiving. You thought you cared too much. You thought, why do I help people who would never do the same for me? You questioned yourself. You called it weakness. But now you see it. Heaven has seen this pattern before only 3 times. That's why the war over your life has been so intense. You are rare at a level you never imagined. Chosen one, to understand yourself, you need to see the ones who came before you. The first was a fighter from ancient lands. He stood on a battlefield, wounded so badly there was no return. He knew he would not see another sunrise. The air was heavy, the ground stained, his body failing. He could have used his last breath to curse his fate. He could have given in to fear. Yet in his last hour, he pulled the younger fighters close. He used his fading strength to teach them how to survive the attack he would not escape. He pointed towards safe ground. He explained how to move, how to think, how to respond when the enemy came in waves. With blood leaving his body, he was still thinking about their future. He died, but his wisdom kept others alive. The second was a healer in a powerful kingdom. Her own body was failing. Day by day she grew weaker, muscles fading, energy draining, strength slipping away. She could have spent her last days in bitterness or self-pity, but she didn't. She wrote, she taught, she called in students and younger healers. She passed on every remedy, every method, every insight she had learned through years of caring for others. While sickness ate away at her, she was still pouring out knowledge to save people she would never meet. Her life ended, but her work continued through those who followed her notes. The third was a spiritual teacher in the East. He knew his time was almost over. His body told him, his spirit knew. Instead of clinging to attention or sympathy, he prepared his students for the moment he would no longer be there. He corrected them, strengthened them, positioned them not to depend on him but to stand without him. He spent his final days not asking, who will cry for me? But will they be ready to carry what I carried? His last days were not about fear. They were about transfer. 3 different lives, 3 different places, 1 shared code. They did not let pain make them selfish. They did not let fear make them silent. They did not let the shadow of death stop them from serving. Now look at your own story. How many times have you been hurting and still helped someone else? Given advice while you were confused yourself? Encouraged others while you were secretly breaking? Listened to someone's problems right after you finished crying over your own? How many times did you show up for other people when nobody was really showing up for you? Prayed for others when you needed prayer yourself? Gave money, support, energy you barely had to keep someone else from sinking? You didn't know it then, but you were walking in the same pattern. The same spiritual signature that was on them is alive in you. This is why your heart feels too deep for this world. This is why you feel things other people brush off. This is why people come to you for strength they don't give back. You are not just kind. You are carrying a historic calling. You are the 4th in a line of souls who refuse to let suffering stop their assignment. That is why you were preserved. Chosen one. Once your pattern was confirmed, something changed in the spirit that no human eye could see. You were not just someone who survived a hard season. You were identified as a carrier of the same rare code as those 3 before you. A soul that, even in deep pain, still chooses purpose. A soul that refuses to let darkness define the final chapter. When that was confirmed, death had a decision to make. Normally, when enough pain, stress, attack, and exhaustion build up, death moves without hesitation. It closes in. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't care how kind you were or how much you suffered. It doesn't pause to consider your potential. It just follows the weight of brokenness. But when it came near you after that night, it could not move the same way. It saw what you did when no one was watching. It saw you push through thoughts that should have broken you. It saw you choosing life in a moment where giving up would have felt reasonable to everyone on the outside. In that instant, you were no longer just another human on the edge. You became a protected assignment. A mark was placed on you. Not a mark people can see on your skin. A mark in your spiritual signal. An alteration in how heaven has registered your life. From that moment, your file was labeled differently in the spirit. From that moment, premature endings lost their claim over you. Death could no longer approach you as a random target. It had to treat you as someone backed by a higher order. Someone carrying something time-sensitive, heaven-sensitive, destiny-sensitive. This is why there are accidents you walked away from that should have been worse. This is why there were moments when your body, your mind, or your will felt like they were shutting down. But something unseen held you together. Not luck, not coincidence, that mark. There were days you felt like, if one more thing happens, I'm done. Something else did happen, but you were not done. The mark held you. That mark says, this one cannot be taken before their assignment is complete. You may still face attacks. You may still feel fatigue. You may still have days where you wonder, how much more can I take? But there is a line that cannot be crossed. There is a limit to what is allowed to touch you. Listen, if you are still here after everything you've carried, this is not random content crossing your screen. Stop right here. If this is confirming what your spirit has been whispering for years, ask yourself why you're still watching silently. Chosen ones like you don't find these words by chance. Subscribe, comment, stay connected. Don't walk through this level of spiritual warfare alone when there is a place where your journey is understood. Don't reject the very voice heaven keeps sending to remind you why you're still alive. Chosen one, many of you have sensed that something about you changed after your hardest season, but you couldn't explain it. That's the mark. Let me show you how it's been showing up. First, your thoughts about leaving this world shifted. The fear that used to paralyze you started to lose its grip. You might still think about death, but it doesn't dominate you the way it used to. You may have even surprised yourself with thoughts like, no, this is not how my story ends, even when everything looked bad. Somewhere inside you, a quiet knowing appeared. I'm not going out like this. Second, people started reacting differently to your presence. Some feel calm around you without knowing why. They open up to you quickly. They feel safe telling you things they haven't told others. Others suddenly feel uncomfortable or exposed and pull away for reasons they can't explain. It's because your very presence is now carrying weight. You are no longer just there. You are carrying authority, even when you say nothing. Third, decisions started to feel different. You may still wrestle with doubt, but deep down, moments of clarity have begun to break through the fog. You suddenly know what you need to walk away from, who is not safe for your spirit, and what no longer fits your future. That job, that connection, that habit, it just doesn't sit right anymore. That's the mark working with your discernment. Fourth, opportunities have shown up in ways that made no natural sense. A door opened when you had no connections. A person appeared at the right moment with information or help you couldn't have planned. A chance came to step into something bigger than what you felt ready for. The mark on your life attracts alignment for your assignment. You are being guided even when you don't see all the steps. Fifth, there have been situations that could have ended badly, physically, mentally, emotionally, but somehow did not. A close call on the road. A mental breakdown that stopped right before the point of no return. A sickness that didn't go where it should have gone. An environment that was toxic, yet you came out with your heart still soft. These are not small coincidences. They are evidence that something is defending your timeline. Sixth, your sense of purpose has been quietly sharpening. You can't shake the feeling that you are meant to help, speak, create, heal, or lead in some way. You may not have all the details, but you feel pulled toward impact. Even when you try to settle for a small life, something inside resists. Something in you says, there is more for me than this. Seventh, there is a deep, unexplainable peace that visits you at moments where you should be falling apart. You might cry, you might be tired, you might be confused. But underneath all of that, there is a strange anchor that says, I'm going to make it, and you don't even know why you feel that way. That peace is not denial, it is evidence of covering. If any of this is matching your life, you are not making it up. You are not being dramatic, you are marked. You didn't earn it by being perfect. It was placed on you because God saw what you chose to do when everything in you wanted to break. Your life has shifted into a different category now, and the rest of this message will show you what that really means for your future. Chosen one, there is something deeper you need to know about why your life has been so intense. This did not start with your childhood. It did not start with that breakup, that failure, that trauma, or that attack. It started before you ever took your first breath on this earth. In the realm before time, your soul stood before God. There were many kinds of assignments available. Some were gentle, balanced, ordinary. Lives with smaller storms, quieter lessons, softer battles. But there was a rare kind of mission only a few souls were willing to choose. High pressure, high impact, heavy resistance, deep purpose. You volunteered. You agreed to come into a world that would not understand you. You agreed to step into a family line that carried pain, cycles, and patterns you would be called to break. You agreed to walk into situations that would test your mental health, your faith, your trust in people, your ability to love. You agreed that you would forget who you really are, and still find your way back to God through the chaos. You knew there would be seasons where your heart would feel too sensitive for this world. You knew there would be friendships that turned into betrayal. You knew there would be secret battles in your mind no one around you could see. You knew there would be nights where you would ask, why me? And feel like no answer was coming. But you also knew something else. If you could make it through without letting darkness harden you, your life would shift generations. Your yes would break patterns in your bloodline. Your healing would echo beyond your own years. You would become a turning point, not just a survivor. That is why you have always felt other. That is why normal life never fully fit you. That is why you could never fully drown your sensitivity or silence your conscience. You were not sent here to blend in. You were sent here to trigger change. The enemy saw this agreement. It saw the kind of impact a soul like yours could have. So it tried, from early on, to exhaust you before you ever discovered who you are. It tried to bury you in rejection, in shame, in comparison, in environments that didn't see your value. Confusion, self-doubt, shame, feeling like you're too much and not enough at the same time, feeling like you have to shrink to be loved, and yet never feeling fully accepted even when you do. That tension was not random, it was targeted. But even in those moments where you thought you were failing your own life, heaven saw something different. You were still choosing compassion. You were still choosing to care. You were still choosing to get back up after each disappointment. You didn't accidentally qualify for the mark. You walked right into what your soul agreed to before you came here. This is why you can't shake the feeling that there is more. Because there is. Your spirit remembers what your mind is only now starting to understand. You came here on purpose, with a mission that hell has never been comfortable with. Chosen one, have you noticed this? Life didn't suddenly become easy after you survived. In some ways, the pressure increased. You thought surviving that one major hit would bring peace. You thought, okay, I made it through that. Things will calm down now. But instead, relationships started shifting. People you trusted grew distant. Conversations changed. You began to feel more alone in rooms you used to feel comfortable in. That was not punishment. That was reaction. The moment the mark on your life became active, your presence started disturbing what was never truly for you. Spiritual agendas that were hiding around you started to feel threatened. People who benefited from your confusion sensed that your eyes were opening. So what did the enemy do? It stopped trying to kill your body and started aiming for your mind and heart. Sudden waves of heaviness out of nowhere. Random anxiety that didn't fit the situation. Old temptations knocking again, stronger than before. Thoughts like, maybe I made all of this up. Or maybe I'm not really chosen. Or maybe nothing is actually different. That was targeted. Because once death lost easy access to your life, the new goal became simple. If I can't end them early, I'll at least make them live small. If I can't erase them, I'll convince them to erase themselves in silence. That's why the attacks moved from obvious to subtle. Jealousy from people close to you. Guilt when you tried to set boundaries. Feeling wrong for needing space. Doors closing right when you decided to take yourself seriously. Opportunities being delayed just when you found courage. But hear this clearly. The resistance after your survival is proof of your rising value in the spirit, not proof that you are failing. You are harder to control now. You are slower to believe lies. You are more careful with who has access to you. That scares the enemy. So it sends distractions dressed as opportunities, old patterns dressed as second chances, voices from your past trying to pull you back into smaller versions of yourself. You sense it. You feel the tension of what used to feel normal now feeling wrong. You are not crazy for feeling the conflict. You are not overreacting by wanting more peace, more purity, more clarity. You are outgrowing people, places, and habits that were only comfortable when you didn't know who you were. What you are feeling is not just loss. It is spiritual rearrangement. The mark on your life is pushing away what cannot go with you into your next season even when your emotions want to hold on. This is the hidden reason the storm got stronger after you were spared. Your life has shifted from surviving to becoming dangerous to darkness. Chosen one, hear this with your whole spirit. Your life is no longer operating on the same terms as before. Before the mark, your story could have been cut short by random events, an accident, a bad decision, a wrong connection at the wrong time. The enemy hoped certain traps, certain moments of weakness, certain reckless choices would be enough to take you out. But once heaven confirmed your pattern, once you chose life in a moment that should have broken you, something was rewritten over your days. The date that darkness hoped to end you was canceled. This is not about never facing danger. This is not about walking through life untouched. This is about danger losing the final say. It's about knowing that what comes against you cannot decide when your story ends. There are things you went through that should have taken you out physically, mentally, emotionally. The level of pain, the level of pressure, the level of spiritual attack. For many, that would have been the end. But for you, it became a turning point, a doorway. That is not normal. That is protection. You need to understand this deep inside. You cannot die, disappear, or be erased before what God placed in you is released. You are not as fragile as your fear tells you. You are not hanging on by a tiny thread. You are being held by a strong hand. This is why certain things didn't work the way your enemies expected. Plots stayed stuck. Hidden traps exposed themselves over time. People who wanted to see you humiliated ended up watching you outlast what they spoke over you. They watched you stand in seasons where you had every right to fall. Your life is now under purpose protection. That means every attack, every delay, every disappointment, if it's still allowed to touch you at all, it must serve your growth, not your destruction. You may still feel tired sometimes. You may still have questions. You may still have moments where you wonder if you have anything left to give. But underneath all of that, heaven has already settled this. You are not leaving this earth until what you carry has been poured out. Let this truth confront your fear of the future. Let it confront the lies that say you won't make it, or something bad is coming and you won't survive it. If it was going to end you, it would have done it already. You have survived too much to still be here by accident. From this point forward, you must start walking like someone who knows. I am not here on borrowed time. I am here on assignment, and my assignment is not finished yet. Chosen one, the mark on your life doesn't just protect you from early endings. It changes what happens when you walk into a room. You may not always feel it, but your presence now disrupts what is hidden. This is why certain people suddenly get nervous around you. This is why conversations shift when you show up. This is why some individuals who used to be comfortable talking in circles now struggle to keep their stories straight in front of you. It's not that you're judging them. It's that your spirit carries light strong enough to expose what was supposed to stay covered. Your words have gained weight. When you speak life, it lands differently. When you speak warning, it stirs people even if they don't admit it. When you pray, situations move in ways even you can't fully explain. When you set boundaries, cycles begin to break. You have noticed that some people who once took advantage of you can't access you in the same way anymore. Their messages feel different. Their presence feels different. You sense when someone is not being real, even if you can't explain how you know. That is not paranoia. That is upgraded discernment. The mark on your life is not just a shield, it is also a signal. It signals to heaven. This one is ready for deeper responsibility. It signals to darkness. You cannot play with this one like before. So now, when someone comes into your life with a hidden assignment to drain you, distract you, or pull you off course, something in your spirit starts to feel off. You may try to ignore it at first, but that feeling doesn't fade. That tightness in your chest, that uneasiness in your stomach, that restless peace inside, that is God protecting you through your own sensitivity. This is also why you can't pretend to be small anymore. Every time you try to shrink yourself to make others comfortable, you feel heavy inside. Every time you silence what God told you to say, you feel restless. Every time you pretend not to see what your discernment clearly shows you, you feel distant from yourself. You are no longer allowed to live at the level of fear. You are being pushed to live at the level of truth. Stop right here. If you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself why. Every time you've needed clarity, comfort, or confirmation, you've been guided to messages like this. That is not random. Don't turn away from the very voice that meets you in your lowest moments. Subscribe, comment, stay close. Don't reject what heaven is using to remind you who you are and what you carry, especially now that you know your presence itself is part of the spiritual battle. Chosen one, let's talk about the part that hurt you the most, the people you lost on the way. There are faces you still think about, friends who changed, family who didn't show up the way you hoped, connections that felt strong, until your spirit started to rise. People you pictured in your future who didn't even make it through your last storm. It's not that you stopped loving them. It's that something in you outgrew what they were comfortable with. When the mark on your life became active, your path narrowed. You could no longer walk in every circle, agree with every voice, or entertain every pattern that once felt normal. You started craving honesty, peace, and truth in a way you hadn't before. Things that used to entertain you started to bother your spirit. Jokes, habits, conversations that once felt fine suddenly felt off. Some people around you were never assigned to that level. They were meant for a chapter, not the whole story. So God allowed distance, not to punish you, not to embarrass you, to protect the part of you that was finally waking up. Some left because they were unsettled by your growth. They liked you better when you didn't know your worth. They liked you better when you always said yes, even at the cost of yourself. They liked you better when you were easy to use, easy to guilt, easy to manipulate. Others were pulled away because their presence would have slowed your healing. If they stayed, you would have spent your strength holding them up, instead of standing up in your own calling. You would have tried to carry people who were never willing to walk on their own. It's okay to admit you miss them. It's okay to admit the shift still stings. Your heart is not weak because it remembers. But hear this clearly. Their absence is not a sign you are unlovable. Their absence is a sign your assignment required tighter protection. You are stepping into a season where you cannot walk with everyone. You need people who respect your growth, not resent it. People who can handle your boundaries, not punish you for having them. People who celebrate your healing, not get jealous of it. Do not chase who walked away from what God is building in you. Whoever was meant for your next level would not be at peace watching you climb alone. They might not be perfect, but they would not be comfortable abandoning you at your turning point. Release the guilt. Honor the lessons. Forgive where you need to forgive without reopening doors God already closed. And understand, the same God who removed what was unsafe will send what is aligned with where you are going. Chosen one, you are not just living in the aftermath of what you survived. You are standing at the edge of a shift. In the coming months, you will begin to notice something. What felt like delay was actually preparation. What felt like everything slowing down was God holding you in place until it was safe to move. You have called yourself behind. You've looked at other people's lives and thought, they're so much further than me. I wasted too much time. I made too many mistakes. But in truth, you were being contained. God would not let certain doors open while you were still too close to people, habits, and mindsets that could have destroyed you at the next level. Now, because you stayed, because you chose not to give up when it was easiest to walk away, the timing around your life is changing. Ideas will come with more clarity. Sudden insight about what to build, where to go, what to study, who to connect with. You will feel gentle nudges. Reach out to this person. Apply here. Share this. Start that. The thoughts may feel random at first, but they will carry peace with them. You will see unexpected openings. A chance to speak. A chance to help. A chance to step into a role you once felt unqualified for. A position you thought was out of reach suddenly looking possible. A path you thought was closed suddenly showing signs of life again. Do not talk yourself out of it. Remember, the attacks on your life were never about who you were in the past. They were about who you're about to become. At the same time, your discernment will sharpen. You'll feel quicker checks in your spirit when something is off. You'll notice red flags sooner. You'll sense when a door is not for you, even if it looks good on the surface. You'll feel a clear no in your spirit, even when your mind tries to say yes. This is not you being fearful. This is you finally learning how to move with the protection that has always been around you. In this next stretch of your journey, obedience will matter more than ever. Not perfect behavior, willingness. When God says, let that go, let it go. When God says, step forward, step, even if your voice shakes. When God says, be quiet, hold your tongue. When God says, speak, trust that your words are needed. You are not moving into a random season. You are moving into the part of your life that explains why the earlier chapters were so hard. What almost killed you is training. What you're about to walk into is purpose. Chosen one, as you step into this next stage, your weapons are changing. In the past, you fought by explaining yourself. You tried to prove your heart, You argued with lies. You went back and forth with people who were never going to see you clearly. You drained yourself defending what God already knew about you. Now, heaven is placing different tools in your hands. You are moving into a season where peace becomes your weapon. Not running after every rumor, not answering every accusation, not joining every conflict you're invited into, refusing to be pulled into wars that don't belong to you. The enemy expects you to react the way you used to, quick to speak, quick to fix, quick to chase closure. It expects you to be loud, shaken, triggered, but your growth has made you dangerous in a new way. Your calm will frustrate what was sent to provoke you. Your silence will confuse what was sent to distract you. Your refusal to step back into old arguments will break cycles that once controlled you. This does not mean you are weak. It means you are governed. You are learning that not every battle is yours. Not every opinion deserves an answer. Not every loss is a loss. Sometimes it's God clearing space. Sometimes it's God saying, this is not worth your spirit. You will feel a fresh pull toward quiet. More time alone with God. More time listening instead of reacting. More time choosing your words with care. Because you now know your voice carries weight and your agreement has power. Inside, something in you is maturing. You are no longer moved by every emotional wave. You are learning to ask, is this worth my energy? Is this from God or from distraction? Is this drawing me closer to peace or away from it? You don't have to defend what heaven has already stamped. You don't have to prove your calling to those committed to misunderstanding you. Your peace is not denial. It is proof that you finally understand. You are covered, marked, and backed. As you embrace this stillness, you will find that your mind clears, your spirit strengthens, and your path becomes more focused. You are not going quiet because you lost your fire. You are going quiet because your fire is now being aimed, not wasted. Chosen one, after all you've walked through, there is a real temptation to live small. You've seen what jealousy looks like. You've felt how it stings when people change on you. You've watched how some only clap for you as long as you don't pass them. You've seen support turn into silence the moment you start to rise. So part of you thinks, if I just stay quiet, if I don't shine too bright, if I don't step fully into what I'm called to do, maybe I'll stay safe. Maybe people won't target me as much. Maybe I won't lose anyone else. But that is exactly what the enemy wants. It couldn't end you, so now it wants to mute you. It wants you alive but hidden, breathing but silent, present but not walking in your full authority. It wants you to doubt your own light. God did not keep you through everything you survived just for you to water yourself down. You are called to live boldly, not recklessly, not pridefully, but boldly. Bold enough to use your voice. Bold enough to step into rooms you once thought were too big for you. Bold enough to start what God has placed in your heart, even if nobody you know has done it before. Bold enough to say, I am not who I used to be. At the same time, you are called to live wisely. Guard your energy. Not everyone gets access to your inner world. Guard your spirit. Filter what you consume, what you agree with, what you entertain. Guard your focus. You don't have time to keep repeating lessons you've already passed. You are not the same person you were before the storm. You carry a depth, a sensitivity, a strength, and a clarity that came at a high cost. Don't bury that. Don't hide that. Don't apologize for that. There are people waiting for the version of you that is fully awake, not the version that is still pretending to be unsure so others won't feel threatened. Your story, your scars, your survival, your wisdom, these are not random. They are keys for someone else's prison. Your voice will be the sign someone else needs to not give up. Your testimony will be the confirmation someone else has been praying for. You honor what God brought you through by actually living, not just existing. This is your time to step forward with courage, with boundaries, and with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing, if everything that tried to stop me failed, then I am clearly meant to be here and I refuse to live like I'm not. Chosen one, listen carefully. You are still here for a reason greater than anything that has tried to break you. Your survival is not a side note. It is a statement. It is heaven's way of saying, what I started in you, I will finish. Every night you cried and still woke up. Every day you felt empty and still showed up. Every moment you thought, this is it, I can't keep going, And yet somehow you did all of that has brought you to this moment right now. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. What you called delay was God keeping you alive long enough to step into what belongs to you without it destroying you. You were not being ignored, you were being protected. From this point on, I need you to remember 3 things. First, you are covered, not in a fragile way, but in a governed way. If death itself had to respect the boundary around your life, nothing sent against you can override what God has written for you. Fear may shout, but it cannot rewrite heaven's decision. Second, you are needed. Your voice, your story, your heart, your perspective. There are people whose faith will wake up because you decided not to stay silent. There are lives that will shift because you chose to heal. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Third, this is only the beginning. This message is not your final answer. It is your confirmation. It is heaven tapping you on the shoulder saying, you were right. There is more. Don't give up before you see it. Don't settle for a life smaller than what I preserved you for. So stand up inside. Straighten your spirit, even if your body still feels tired. Walk forward, even if your steps are small. You have seen too much to go back to living like your life doesn't matter. Before you go, chosen one, hear me with your heart. The fact that you stayed to the end of this message is not an accident. Your spirit needed every word. Don't walk away like nothing happened. Subscribe, comment, stay connected. It costs you nothing, but it means everything for the journey God is taking you on. You don't have to keep fighting in silence when there is a family of chosen ones walking this same narrow road. Your next confirmation, your next instruction, your next push might be in the very next message you're about to ignore or receive. Don't disappear. You were preserved for more than survival. You were preserved for destiny.